For my biology students, we'll just do a recap on enzymes. I've already done this with some of you, but I believe we have some new students, so we'll just go through this. So enzymes are biological catalysts. Catalysts are basically substances that are that speed up reactions, which means they make a reaction faster. Okay, and they are specific to one reaction. Enzymes, which means one enzyme will only catalyze or only speed up one reaction. Now we have two types of reactions in the human body. This is for biology. Biology, okay? We have anabolic reactions and catabolic reactions. Anabolic reactions build up. This is the build up of complex compounds from simpler ones. That means, for instance, we have glycogen, which is a complex sugar in the body, in the human body, which is now uh, built up from glucose. As you can see, the arrows are going towards glycogen. That means glucose is being built up into my glycogen. Perfect. Then catabolic reactions. This is the breakdown of complex compounds into simpler ones. As you can see, the arrows are now in the inverse direction. That means my glycogen is now being broken down into glucose. So again, anabolic reactions, you build up your complex from your simple. Catabolic reactions, you break down your complex into simple. I hope that is understood. Very well. We move on to the effect, not the effect, but how enzymes work, right? I had to make use of diagrams because it gets quite confusing, but I believe these diagrams aren't so bad. I mean, they're the best I've done in a long time, so they can't be so bad. Anyways, enzyme specificity. Specificity. Spelling error, but don't worry about it. You have textbooks. So enzyme specificity, yes. We look at the lock and key mechanism. So here, AS denotes active site. So the active site is where there will be, so it's just here, not that two, so just here. That's where we have our reaction. That's where our reaction occurs. It's at the active site. This is the active site here. Very well. So here we look at the entry of the substrate. So the substrate is this compound, before the reaction. After the reaction, this substrate becomes a product with a totally different chemical structure and makeup. As you can see, it's green over there, and here it's blue and red, just to make it easier for you to understand. So what happens is, initially, it will with enzymes, they work like a lock and key. There can only be one type of key that can open a lock. Okay, so if it's a Y2 key, that lock can only be opened by a Y2 key. If it's a Y15 key, and so forth. So the way a padlock and a key are specific, where you need to use a specific type of key to open this type of lock. Therefore, same way, you need only a specific enzyme to change this substrate into that product. Only this enzyme. No other enzyme, because enzymes are specific to their reactions, which means, for instance, enzyme amylase will only catalyze reactions that involve sugar, because enzyme amylase breaks down sugar maltose into glucose. Good. Very well. So here's the entry of my substrate into the active site. Here now I have my enzyme plus my substrate. Okay, try to be a bit creative to show you that this is the substrate, that one. Then, over here we have the product, which is a result of the reaction that happened here with the enzyme catalyzing this reaction here of this substrate and the enzyme. Good. So this shows either a catabolic or an anabolic reaction. Doesn't matter, but all you have to pay attention to is that the substrate and the product are different. The substrate is at the beginning of the reaction. The product is at the end of the reaction. And that's your enzyme specificity or lock and key mechanism. Very good. Now we move on to the effect of temperature on enzyme activity. So the activity of an enzyme is affected by temperature and pH. We'll first look at temperature. So what happens is we have a graph there that shows how temperature affects the activity of an enzyme. So initially we see the different temperatures. We have 10, 30, and 45. Well, it should have been 37 because that is the human optimum temperature, but it's okay. Let's use this for animals, okay? Perhaps. So let's say 30 is the optimum temperature at which these enzymes need to work. So initially at 10 or 15, the enzyme will be inactive because it's cold. I put the blue around it to show like a colder temperature, so it's cold. The 10 at 15, it's cold. And so of course the rate of activity at 10 and 15 is, it's not so fast. It's like let's say it's let's say 10 seconds per the reaction. Okay, so let's say it takes 10 seconds here, and or so forth. So here the rate of activity is slow. It's less. It's 10. But then as the temperature increases from 10 to 30, so does our rate of activity. So 10 goes up, becomes 15, goes up again when it reaches 30 degrees Celsius, which is what we use to measure temperature. Now our rate of activity is 30%, perhaps. Let's put it as 30%. And so what happens is now there's heat. And that heat will now activate our enzyme, and that's why you see the green there, which means now the substrate is now changing into a product. But the moment that the temperature exceeds the optimum temperature, that means the moment our 30 goes to 40 and 45, then the enzyme denatures. So denatures means what? Is that the reason why I drew my enzymes in 3D shapes is to show you denaturing. So with denaturing, it means that the chemical bonds that held these enzymes in that shape have been broken because of too much heat. Think of ice. So you have ice, you put it near some hot place or some place that has a lot of heat, and the ice will melt. So ice melts because the bonds in the ice that were there to keep the ice solid have been broken. And so the shape has been broken down and now it becomes liquid. So we can say the same happens with the enzymes, that the enzymes have melted, have denatured, which is the better term, not melted. Don't go right, the enzyme melted. No. The enzyme denatured. Very well. And so the bonds in the enzyme broke apart, and as a result, the enzyme now changes shape. And that's why this body over here has a question mark, like, what's going on? I thought I came home. And it looks different. It doesn't look like home anymore. Why? Because this active site where he should be able to fit in has been changed, because the bonds that held this active site in place or made sure that the enzyme had this shape have been broken. And that's why here I showed like some overheating effect, because I didn't have more colors to try some more creativity. But yes, it's overheated here, and so it has denatured, and so the bonds are broken, and therefore there can be no reaction. and that is the effect of temperature on enzyme activity. Now it's 10 minutes long and it could cut short, so I'll make another video for the effect of pH on enzyme activity.